All right, guys, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Gina Corsi. I'm here with Regina Crandall of the St. Louis County Library, and we are, hang on just a sec. Regina, did you mute?
What's that?
Can you mute yours? Did it work? Okay. All right, cool. It was like echoing in my ear. All right, so we're here to talk about capability statements. So we've got people in person, we've got people um, in the chat on hybrid, and so Regina will check the chat every once in a while. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in there. And then we should have plenty of time at the end to talk about specifics if we want to. But today's kind of fun because you get to talk about what makes your business so great. That's your capability statement in a nutshell. It's like a resume for your business. All right. So if you haven't been with us, we're in week 4, but if you haven't been with us, I'm with Missouri Apex Accelerator. There's an Apex in every single state. There are 6 of us here in Missouri, and we're funded through the federal government and also the University of Missouri. So these are the things that we offer. So besides workshops like this, training, education, we help with registration assistance and some of the websites that we've talked about. Oh, that was weird. And then we do business counseling and procurement strategy. We focus specifically on contracting, but we've got lots of partners. So if you're not interested in contracting with the government specifically, and you want to grow your business in the commercial side, we can refer you to the right people. All right. So no crazy updates today. If you've been with us over the last couple of weeks, no crazy updates today, but everything is accurate as of this afternoon. Okay, so if you're a note taker, either in person or hybrid, we're going to be talking about 6 different sections of this document. So if you're a note taker and you like to do bullet points, we're going to do 6 different sections. If you like to fold your piece of paper to divide it into 6, you can do that too. But that is how we're going to work today. So section 3 on our agenda is really the long one, but we'll just talk a little bit about procurement and why you want a capability statement. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you see that blue more info button on the slide, then you can get more information about that specific topic. All right, so if you've been here before, you've heard this lots of times, the government's looking for quality, competitive pricing, because they're using our tax dollars, and on-time delivery. So with your capability statement, you want to prove to them that you can do all 3 of those things. And the government relies on businesses like yours to provide the goods and services that the government doesn't make itself. Okay? All right, so what is this capability statement? Basically, it's a resume for your business. So you can see an example here, and we'll go over it in more detail as we move forward. But basically, 1 to 2 pages, put the important stuff on the first page that focuses on the value that you provide to your customers. So it's kind of like a resume because you're going to put things that you've done in the past, just like you would on your personal resume, but you're really going to focus on the value. So if you've updated your resume anytime recently, they'll tell you the same thing. So don't just say, I worked here, here, and here. Tell them what you did there, right? That's what we're going to talk about too. So on this document, you're going to tell them what you sell. You're going to tell them who you sell it to, like typically, and then what makes you different from everybody else, okay? So that's what we're going to look at. You can see here that it's 2 columns. That is typically what we recommend just because it's easier for the eyes to read. It's like faster for people. And I'll give you some tips on that later as well. But most capability statements you see are going to be 1 page, 2 if you have to, but put the important stuff on the first page just in case they don't turn it over. Yeah.
You guys have a pamphlet?
Yeah, so we have templates, and really you can just use any resume template. That's 2 columns. I have some examples at the end too. Yeah, Etsy, Canva, Google. There's some, got to be careful with the Google ones because some of them aren't really free, but Google templates has a lot too. So, and you just kind of make it the way you want. Like this one I made on Canva. So why exactly do you want one? So who's going to be looking at this document? So basically your customers. So your customers could be the government buyers, like the agencies themselves, or it could be people who are buying what you sell as far as like a teaming partner. Let's say that, there's some big company and they have a big, big contract. They need suppliers, right? They need services, they need stuff. That's where you come in. You share it with them as well. And how do they use it? It's really the highlighted one. They're identifying businesses that can do what they want. They want to make sure that if they give somebody a contract, it's going to get done. So that's what you're proving here. You're proving that you're competent. If you get a contract, you're going to be able to fulfill that contract, right? The second and third bullet point, that's more like for the teaming partners, who supports their target customers. So the second bullet point here, target customers, if you're a big company who's selling to, let's say, Missouri Department of Transportation, you want to make sure that you're getting in touch with suppliers who can help you fulfill DOT contracts, right? And then the last one, who can make you more competitive? So small businesses can't do everything, and that nobody expects you to do everything, right? But when you team up with other people, you can do a lot more, right? You can handle bigger contracts or more widespread contracts. So teaming up with other people can make you more competitive. All right. So what should this thing include? Hey, it's a high level summary. So I don't know the reference point on this, but people have said you hand this to somebody and they look at it for 8 seconds, at least the first time, right? Like if you're at an event, you hand it to somebody, they say you got to get their attention in 8 seconds, right? So we're really high level summary. Not a ton of details, but you want to show them how you can solve their problem. So let's say that you sell like a software. You don't want to put that you just sell a software. You want to say, we sell a software that can help you A, B, C, D, right? Now, the third bullet point here, only information that's significant to your client or to your customer. You might have more than one of these. We'll talk about that in a little while. But basically, you don't want to clog it up with a lot of information and you hand it to somebody and they're only looking at like 1 or 2 bullet points, right? So you want information that's really significant, not really any fluff stuff. Get to the point of what you can do and how you can help them. The fourth bullet point here at the top, that's the hardest one. How are you different than your competition? We'll talk about those. They're called differentiators, what makes you different. And I'll give you some examples. That's really the hardest part. All right, so what should it not include? A long explanation of anything, right? A lot of people will put like a whole paragraph about your company history, and that is really, really important, but it's just not quick, right? So that's something that you can put on your website so that you grab their attention with this document, then they go to your website and they can read more about it. Okay. Also, be careful, grammar, spelling, punctuation errors. So in the world of AI, people think that there won't be any of those errors. You really got to double check what that stuff's putting on your documents. Be really, especially the grammar part. So be really careful with that. All right. So let's talk about the 6 sections. We're going to start kind of with the easiest one, okay? So section number 1, contact information. That's the easiest one, so we're going to start there. And you don't have to write these down because I'll have them on the next slides. Okay, so make sure that they can find you. So your name, your email address, your phone number, your website if you have one, and usually your business address or at least your business city. So let's say that you have a home office, right? You work out of your home. Maybe you don't have to put your home address, but just put like the city, like St. Louis, Missouri, right? Hey, welcome in. So make sure that they can find you. Your name, email, phone number, website, and address. Are we good on this one? All right. So here's an example. So I just have mine here in the bottom left corner. So I have my contact information. I have my name and my title, phone number, email, and I have my address. What did I forget on here? Yes, I forgot the website. Good catch. Don't forget your website if you have one. Let's say you don't have a website yet. What could you use instead of a website? Social media, specifically like a LinkedIn or a Linktree. Those are good options. Yes, I forgot the website. I added it after I realized that, so good catch there. But yeah, so just make sure it's in a place where they can find you. Don't make it too small at the bottom because you want to make it easy for them to get in touch with you. Okay, so next section here, so this is section number 2, is your company overview. So this is where you want to tell the reader, which is your customer, who you are really quick, right? This is like your elevator pitch. 1 to 2 sentences about your business. What do you offer? I like to bold the most important stuff so that they can see that right away. They don't have to read the whole sentence. And if you can add stats and metrics, go ahead and add them. So things like if you've been around since, 1992, put that on there, right? If you've served over, let's say, I don't know, 50 individual clients, you could put that on there too, right? Add some stats and metrics. People like numbers, right? They like data. That proves that, you've been around for a while. And if you're new, we're going to talk, if your business is new, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, how you can use like your personal experience. Okay, so if your business is new, we'll talk about that coming up a little bit.
Including like names of former clients or contracts or so on?
So the question was, do we recommend putting names of like former customers and clients? So we're going to talk about that a little bit further. The answer is if you have permission, yes. You don't have to put anybody's like personal name. But let's say that I did a job, which I didn't, but let's say I did a job for Ameren. If I have Ameren's permission, I can put Ameren. If I don't, if they say, no, please don't put that on there, you could put like electric utility company, right? So you can kind of summarize it if you need to. And there's a section for that, so we'll talk about it. Okay, so for your elevator pitch, there's actually lots of workshops just on elevator pitches. You want to be kind of specific, bold the things that are important, instead of being like really vague, okay? Because again, you're showing your value to the customer. So on the left-hand side here, here's a specific example. We help businesses protect their cloud-based data with 24/7 cyber monitoring and support. So that's from one of my clients' actual capability statements, okay? See the metric there? People like to see those numbers, 24/7 support, okay? Instead of, this one's more vague over here on the right, we provide innovative technology solutions to maximize value. I mean, that sounds really good, but I don't know what that means. Like, what kind of value are you maximizing? There's nothing wrong with it, but you just want to be more targeted to how you can help them, okay? The second one on the left, we reduce downtime for clients by an average of, like whatever percent. So I see a lot of this one for workforce consulting. We help businesses become more efficient. Okay, but that can mean a lot of different things, right? That could be more efficient in the amount of paper that you use. That could be more efficient in the time it takes people to, I don't know, write an email. Like it could be lots of different things. So just be a little bit more specific. So reducing downtime, that was another one from one of my clients. All right. So here's an example. Here's just my example. The Apex Accelerator program provides education and training to ensure all businesses become capable of serving federal, state, and local government needs. That's actually kind of wordy. I don't even know if I love that, but I'm telling them exactly what I do. Education and training for businesses serving these markets. Okay. So just 1 to 2 sentences on that because you want to hook them in like 8 seconds. Okay. So if you start thinking of things while we talk about this, just jot down some notes, right? All right. Core competencies. This is what they call the skills that you do or the stuff that you sell. Your core competencies. This is section number 3. You're showing the reader your value. So what are you selling? So do you sell landscape architecture services? Do you sell paper products? Do you sell IT support? What exactly are you selling? And then how does what you sell help the customer? So we provide landscape architecture services to reduce erosion or something like that, right? Increase beautification, whatever is going to help the customer. Sometimes they don't even know they need what you sell until you tell them that they need it. Again, we're trying to catch people's attention quick. So try to use bullet points if you can and break them down by categories. So let's say that you have 3 things that are related, put them in one bullet point, and then when you go to the next section, put a different bullet point. Okay? I'll show you some examples of that. And then we kind of touched on this earlier, this last one here. Eventually, you're going to have multiple versions tailored to the customer that you're engaging with. Okay. So for example, let's say that you sell everything paper related. You sell printer paper, you sell tissues, you sell, paper towels, cleaning supplies, whatever. You sell everything. Whoever is going to buy your stuff, whatever they're buying, put that at the top of the list, right? And then I would save that as, office supplies, right? I put office supplies at the top and save it as that, so I know that that's what that one is. If they're buying more like janitorial supplies, so paper products like tissues, toilet paper, paper towels, put that at the top of the list and save a different version, okay? You want to show whoever you're giving it to exactly what they want to see, okay? And that's just eventually. You don't have to do that right away. Okay, so you want to try to be specific. So instead of saying something like physical security services, you might say access control, intrusion detection, surveillance, or CCTV. Some of those might be a little jargony, like what does access control mean? So I might change that to electronic access control or building access control, something like that. Lots of contracting companies or construction companies, instead of putting just general contracting, tell them what you do. You do concrete work, flat work, foundations, grading, utilities, whatever it is that you do. And then instead of saying medical supplies, you don't have to list all the supplies, especially if you sell stuff. Don't list everything, but be a little bit specific. So instead of medical supplies, you're selling first aid, surgical stuff, post-op stuff, testing kits, because you want something to click in their mind being like, oh yeah, I need that. I need testing kits, right? Any questions about that one? Yeah.
Well, that you're giving the list this is supposed to be like for a business and stuff.
Mhm.
But I could see a problem with that as far as making it too general to the point that you're not really focusing on a government contract. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so she's saying that the problem could be that you're making it really general. I mean, exactly. So that's why eventually you're going to have more targeted to whoever it is, right? So like, for example, there's a big like cybersecurity thing going on right now. It's called C as in cat, MMC. So instead of like access control, I might say like CMMC level 1 access control. So that's a great point. So as you get more familiar with like who you're trying to sell to, that's when you can add in those different things.
It's, yes, I could do is reference the director of occupations, which will give you the keywords.
Okay. Yeah. So good tip was to look at the, did you say director of operations? Directorate of operations, so you can get occupation, sorry, so you can get those keywords. Okay, that was tip number 1. Thanks.
If selling a service, look at ONET.
ONET for services. ONET for services. If you are providing services, did you get that? ONET. And so what Sonia is saying is that you want to kind of match your language to what the government's looking for. And as you get more familiar with like reading contracts and stuff, then you'll kind of know what they're looking for. But those are great options. Thank you. And again, once you play with this a little bit, it'll be easier. Okay, so here's the ones that I picked. So like I said, I kind of divided them into sections. So I've got training and education, and I've got that bolded. So even if they don't read anything else, they know I do training and education, or registration assistance, or procurement strategy. And then I give a little bit more details. So like one-on-one counseling or public workshops, like action plans, new employee training, so you can be more specific, but I would definitely bold the big stuff that you do. Okay. If you can add numbers, people love to see numbers. So we serve an average of 1,260 clients per year, at least over the past 4 years. So anytime you can put numbers, that's great. We'll talk more about that on like this past performance one. But like, for example, if I helped, 166 people get registered on SAM, I could put that on there. If you served, let's say that you are doing janitorial or maintenance for an office building, how many offices were in there, right? 17 offices, and you helped out, 47 people or something like that, right? If you can give numbers, try to. Let's say that your business is new, you don't have any numbers yet, just don't put any numbers until you get them, right? Okay. All right, good deal. Okay, past performance. This is what you've actually sold, okay? I think I have another slide. I'm gonna skip ahead real quick, so I wanna see something. Okay, I think I have it at the end. So your past performance is what you sold, but if, let's say your business is new and you haven't sold anything through the business, but you have sold things yourself, or you've worked in the field for 12 years, you can just change that past performance to personnel experience, right? You're being honest with them. You're saying the business is kind of new, but me personally, I've got 8 years of experience in whatever you're doing, right? Let's say that you did sales for a company for, 8 years, and now you've created your own business. Then you could put personnel experience, 8 years in sales, right? You're honest, but you're still telling them what you can do. So we had kind of talked about this earlier. So client name, you can put that if they allow you to. You can give them, give it a title. So let's say you did, let's see, who did I talk to today? Software, she sells software. So she might say, purchase of 8 software licenses. That might be the title, right? And the type of software that it is. Client name. So let's say that her client was, and this is not true, but let's say the client was Boeing, just because we're here in St. Louis. If Boeing allows you to say that, go ahead and put that. If not, you could say something like aerospace defense contractor, something like that, right? You can describe what it is if they don't want you to give the name. If you can put dates on there, again, numbers are great. So let's say you worked on a project for 6 months or a year, put those dates on there because that shows them how long that you've worked on a project. Just a quick overview of what you provided or the quality of work. So again, if you can put numbers, that's really great. So my client who sells software licenses, so she sold a software license that I think it compiled like two different databases into one. And so what she did was say like took, 12,000 records, combined 12,000 records from multiple softwares into one. And then contract dollar amount, if you know it, you can put it on there. You don't have to, but it just shows how big of work you can do, especially if you're in construction. They just want to see how big of projects you can handle. Okay. Yeah. So good question. So the question was, is it only related to the business itself or can it be your personal experience? So it can, you just change past performance to personnel experience. So you're saying basically the employees of my company have this experience. Yep. Okay, so here's a specific one. So here's the data management, and I just changed the numbers over here. Provided support for implementing new data management software for a local college. So that's literally what she did. But you can be a little bit more specific. If you're allowed to say the school, you could put the school, and I just changed these names and numbers. But like, let's say that University of Missouri did not want her to use the name, and they told her, please don't use that. You could just say university, right? Or state university, local college, something like that. The dates of the contract. So if it's still going on, so I have one person who started a contract in January, just put January to present, right? Shows them that you're working on something right now. If you know the contract number, especially if it's a federal contract, you can put it on there just so people can look it up. If you don't have a contract number, don't put it. Okay. This is pretty flexible. Okay. If you were the prime contractor or the subcontractor, we haven't talked too much about that over the last 4 weeks. But if you sign the contract with the government or with the customer, you're the prime contractor. If you work for that company, you're the subcontractor. So you can put prime, or let's say you only did a piece of this. So let's say this contract was 234,000 and you did a piece that was 15,000. You would just put 15,000 subcontractor, right? Just be honest so that they can see what your capacity is really. And then she changed that a little bit. She says strategic planning and guidance for enrollment and grading system for this many students, decreasing data entry by 14%. So she measured that by how long it took for people to enter in a new student in the old system and how long it took in the new system. And so really it was like less than a minute, but that's like 14%. That sounds pretty good, right? So more numbers you can use, the better. Okay. And again, if you are using your personal experience, then you're just doing the same thing. So you might say the company that you worked for, and then instead of the prime contractor, you could put sales manager, sales person, whatever your title was for that. And then you just leave off the contract number and the dollar amount. And then as you build more sales, then you'll be able to add to it. So it's all a work in progress. Okay, so I added my numbers kind of at the top. So I said 651 events since 2020 with 16,000 plus attendees. And then I put training and workshops, and then I put some specific topics here. So government contracting, small business certification, local state procurement, So I was a little bit more specific here. What I didn't do, because all of mine are confidential, I didn't put anybody's name. I guess I could have put like, 55 construction firms, 12 concrete firms. Like if I wanted to do something like that, the more numbers you can put in there, the better. So that might be something that I might change on mine. Like, so like panelists, so I've been a panelist on like 12 different organizations. So I could have put that. I probably should have put that. I might change. Yeah. Again, it's like a living document. When people say that because you're constantly going in and changing it. Kind of like that.
Is there a different format that document somebody that is engaged in services rather than a tangible?
So is there a different format if you're selling services than something tangible? So what sort of services? Because mine's kind of like a service. Right. So yours would be like one-on-one consulting. How many people have yeah, yeah. So the headings that I would recommend are like the top ones. So if we go back a few slides, those 6 headings, and you can change, the other bullet points as much as you want, but I would stick with these headings. The only one I would change is this past performance. So if you're new to contracting, but you did the work before, then you just change that to personnel experience. Yeah. Sometimes it's required. Usually it's more like a marketing paper, marketing document. So if you go to like a trade show or a conference, you would take this with you and hand it to people. Let's say you're kind of cold calling people. So let's say you know that NASA buys this little widget that you make. You would email the small business person at NASA and you would attach it as a document. Yep. A good question. So you can change all the details that you want. I would just keep these 6 headings. That's what I would recommend. All right. All right, this one's really the hardest. Differentiators. What makes you different than other people? Because, to be honest, there's lots of people who do similar things that you do. So the more, again, I've said this a million times, numbers really help. How many customers have you served? How many people were helped or impacted? So like, for example, if you sell medical supplies to a hospital, how many people go to that hospital, right? Like per year, a lot. So, show the impact that you are making. You might not even realize how big of an impact that you're making. Let's say that I own a lawn care company and I do like mowing, and then I do like snow removal and stuff. Like, how big of an area can I mow? Like in one project? Can I do like 2 acres? Can I do 7 acres? Like, give them some numbers that shows like you're different. You can do that. If you have like a special equipment, you could put that on there. Locations you've serviced. So, like, do you service both Missouri and Illinois? You could put that on there. Review numbers, I'll clarify that before I send it out. That means like if you get like Google reviews or like Better Business Bureau reviews and you have a 99% satisfaction rate, you could put that on there, right? So that's another cool thing about, LinkedIn. You can send out surveys to people. If you have your own CRM, your customer relationship manager, those softwares will do surveys too. So try to get some feedback from your customers, because then you can put it on there. Some other things that might make you different: industry licenses or certifications. These are different than your small business ones that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. These are more like for your business itself. So if you're an accountant, do you have a CPA or are you a CPA? If you're a project manager, do you have the PMP certification? If you're in IT or manufacturing, do you have the ISO 9001 certification? Do you have the OSHA 10-hour or the OSHA 30-hour license? So anything like that, certification, anything like that is always helpful. Yeah.
You put the St. Louis Development Corporation certification on there?
That one, so if you have like a small business certification, like St. Louis Development Corporation, I'd put that on the next one, which is your corporate data. That's where I would put it. Um, any unique employee education, expertise, credentials. So do you have somebody on your team who has a master's in psychology? Do you have somebody who has, some sort of, um, special training? Put that on there. Whatever can help make your business look as competent as possible. Okay, so I see this a lot, best in class. I mean, that could be true, but tell them why. So do you have a license or a certification by some agency? So for example, if you do lawn care and you do pesticide application, there's a license for that. You have to be licensed to do that on the commercial side. So you could put that on there. Missouri Department of Natural Resources, pesticide, herbicide license. Like those surveys that we talked about, the reviews, do you have 99% on-time delivery rate if you're in transportation? Or, 95%, that's still pretty good, and years. So do you have years performing for whoever the customer is, right? So if you're trying to sell to the state of Missouri, you have 10 years performing for state agencies or federal agencies. And again, these are just examples. You'll come up with ones that are specific to your business, and I can help you with it too on like a one-on-one basis. All right. Okay, so here's a couple more. I see this one a lot with IT or like building renovations. This word turnkey, people really like to see that. So instead of saying, yeah, we'll install this product or renovation on a building, it's turnkey. Like we're going to do everything from start to finish. You're just going to be able to turn the key and go right in. Personalized service. So this one's a little wordy, but it says mission alignment. This was for a defense contractor. So it's aligned to the mission, but also maintains cost structure. So if you know that your customer is on a budget, which most customers are, tell them that you're going to pay special attention to the budget and not go over the costs if at all possible. So that one's a little wordy, but it's a good one. High value outcomes. This is a place where some of that jargon can be good. Turnkey solutions, high value outcomes. You're telling them how you can really help them, how you're better than other people. Okay, so here's the ones that I used. So certified by our national Apex. We use a specific kind of Department of Defense software. Flexible, in-person and virtual. So I'm telling them that I can be flexible. I'm telling them how many hours I have in counseling in Missouri. Something good for your client. So does your client get any perks for what you do? Like complimentary, I don't know, I can't think of anything specifically. Complimentary maintenance for the first 2 years or something like that if you're selling like a copier. And then if, again, any dollars are helpful. So if you can say, save customers an average of 12 hours per year or $1,200 per year, any numbers you can put are good. And then you can use logos if you have their permission. Just make sure you have their permission before you use the logo. So again, differentiators is the hardest one. We should have some time at the end to kind of talk through some ideas. Yeah. All right. Last one, so this is section number 6. This is your corporate data or your corporate snapshot. These are ID numbers so that they can find you. So if you're registered in sam.gov, which is the federal registration, you get two different ID codes. One's called a UEI, Unique Entity ID, and a CAGE. If you're not selling to the federal government and you're not registered in SAM, then just don't put that, okay? NAICS codes, these are your industry codes. These describe the type of work that you do. So for example, if you're in consulting, let's say administrative consulting, like business consulting, there's a code for that, 541611. If you sell airplane parts, there's another code for that. And I don't know that one off the top of my head. So you'll put your NAICS codes on there or any other codes. So Missouri uses a different type of code. You could put those on there. NAICS are this one here. This is the most common type of code that you'll see. Those are the ones you also use on your taxes. I always say to bold the primary one, so the one that you do the most often. You don't have to do that, but I think it's helpful. Usually your customer knows what number they're looking for. Yeah.
Certifications, I know that's probably to put them, but what if you have an application?
Yeah, you could put pending. So the question was, let's say you have a certification, either a small business one or one through like an industry group. So Regina and I were talking earlier about an organization that does their own certification. We had talked about that a couple weeks ago, like the private ones. If you're in process, you can put it and then just put pending. As long as you're honest about it, they're okay with, they're good with that. So if you have an SBA certification, so like woman-owned, veteran-owned, 8A, HubZone, minority business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise, any of those certifications that are more like your small business certifications, I would put that under your corporate info here. If you're in the, yeah.
I have heard a lot about this bonding thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the question was this bonding capacity at the bottom. So bonding is a special kind of insurance, basically. If you haven't heard of that before, let's say that I'm a construction company and I'm working on a project that's valued at like $1 million. Let's say that God forbid something happens to me and I'm out of commission or my company goes bankrupt or something. The bonding insurance will pay for somebody else to finish the project. So that's what that's for. I see that mostly in construction. Sometimes you'll see it in other things if it's a brand new project where you're kind of creating something. But usually it's for construction, and really it's like a worst case scenario. So the way that that works is that you go to your insurance company, and not all insurance companies do it. You might have to find one that does bonding. The SBA has resources on that. I'll add that to the bottom of this. I'll add a link to the SBA site. But basically, they look at your financial records and they say, okay, we guarantee you up to a project worth $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million. So they look at the projects that you've done before, and then they say, okay, we're confident that you're going to get this done, so we will insure you up to this amount. Okay, that's a good question. The second to last one, contract vehicles. I don't want to go too much into that today, but it's kind of like a blanket purchase agreement where you have a contract that's like ongoing, and then if they need something, they order from you. And so you get a specific number from that. Think about it kind of like online shopping for the government. You have a number and they can order from you if they want to. If you're curious about these contract vehicles, go ahead and send me an email and we can chat more about that. But if you have one, put it on there. All right. Okay. So here's one that I see. I see a lot that says women-owned business. So if you put that, that's fine, but they don't know if you have a certification. They don't know if they can count that towards their goals. Same with veteran, same with minority certification. You want to be specific on who gave it to you. So like SBA certified, woman-owned small business. You want to be specific because they may or may not be able to use that towards their goal. That might be a good selling point for you. Now some of them, like this one, SDVE, I could also put MBE, Minority Business Enterprise. A lot of different states have those, so make sure you put what state it is, because if I have it in Missouri, Illinois doesn't automatically count it, okay? So make sure you put whatever state it is, if it's a state certification. And then licensed and bonded, this is kind of what we were talking about before. So license is usually your general contractor license. And if you say bonded, now that's great, but they want to know how big of a project can you do? So that's, I just say licensed GC with surety bonding, 50,000 per project. And as you grow, that number will go up if you're in construction. So don't worry if it starts low, it will continue to grow up. Okay. So if you're registered in SAM, and again, you don't have to register in SAM, but if you are, these are the two numbers that it will give you. Go ahead and put those on there so that they can look you up. Your UEI, the 12-digit number, and your CAGE, that's a 5-digit number. If you're registered in SAM, you can log in and you'll see that on your profile. Another thing I see is when you put your codes on there that they type out the whole explanation. That can be helpful, but a lot of times it just takes up a lot of room, especially if you have more than one code. Your customer is typically going to know what codes they're looking for. And so you can just put the numbers. You don't have to put the explanations on there. Okay. If let's say you only have 2 codes, that's not as big of a deal. But if you have like more than 2, I probably wouldn't put the titles. I would just put the numbers. So here's an example. We're not registered because we're not a business, but I put UEI, CAGE. Oh, I did put my website there. I put in the wrong spot. I'll fix that. And then I only had 4, so I went ahead and put it on there. I actually abbreviated these. So the names are actually really, really long. If I put any more than that, or if I was running out of room, I would just put the numbers and I wouldn't put any explanations on there. Because really your explanations are already all over here. And it's just kind of a duplication. So that's something I would probably change. I would probably take those off the descriptions and I would just leave the numbers. That's probably what I would do. So, okay, before we go on, questions about the 6 sections. And again, we can talk more about this one-on-one for your specific business. Any questions in the chat, Regina? All right, cool. All right. So examples and formats. So one thing I like to do is use this website called the Small Business Search, and you can check out your competitors' capability statements. And if you're registered on SAM, you can also add your own. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. But basically, let's say that I'm in construction. I can use these search filters here on the right. I can search by keyword. I can search a company name if I know it, or I can use the filters to find a business. So like, for example, I use the filters to say Missouri. I use this NAICS code. This is the consulting code. And keyword workflow. I just picked a random one. And I found 2 businesses that are in Missouri with that code that have workflow. And if I look down here, one of them has a capability statement. So if that's a competitor of mine, they do the same sorts of things that I do, I'm going to click on that link and I'm going to see their example, right? That will really help because you'll be able to see things that will make it more you. Like you're going to look at examples and say, okay, I don't like that. Or, hey, I really do like this. Okay. So I love that database. It's super helpful. If you don't use a keyword, so let's just say I did Missouri and a NAICS code, I'd get a ton more results. I just didn't want a bunch for this example, but so just keep scrolling down and click on the links that say capability statement. And we can do a demo of that at the end if we want to. All right. So choosing a format. So really it's anything you want. You want to make it, the way that you want it. There's lots of different formats. I would just make sure it's 2 columns. I think that's the easiest to read. But again, if you don't like it as 2 columns, you do it the way that you want it. But that's just what we recommend. So like I just Googled capability statements and I see a bunch, and you can see that most of them are 2 columns. And you can see some of them like over here. We had talked about this earlier, Etsy capability statement template. So yeah, you can find lots of them. Okay, so this is one of those visual tips that I've read in lots of different places, is they use the Z format. So follow this yellow arrow. So that's like the natural progression if you speak English that your eyes move, because that's the direction that you read, right? So that's how they recommend trying to make it. So kind of line up at least the first 2 and line up close the bottom 2. That's just the way that your eyes move. Make sure it's easy to read, because again, you're trying to catch people's attention within the first like 8 seconds. You want to save these as a PDF. If you're not familiar with this, email me and we'll talk about it, but you want to make sure that you can highlight text on your PDF, that it's not just a picture. Because if it's a screenshot, then they can't search by keyword. So you want to make sure that you can actually like highlight the text. I'll show you an example of that later. And then this is a tip from government contracting officers. Name it so it can be searched. So name it capability statement, your company name, and then actually add what you do. Because if they have like 40 of these and they're looking for somebody who does staffing, they're going to search staffing in their folder and you want to come up. Okay. So that's what they recommend. So the word capability statement, then your company name, and then the type of business that you're doing. Okay. All right. So just some closing thoughts here. Think of this as a resume. So we don't have to read through each of these things, but think of it as a resume. If it doesn't look good, they're going to assume, right or wrong, that your business is not that professional. Okay, just like a resume. If there's typos, if there's like formatting issues, like something's overlapping, they're going to assume, right or wrong, that you don't have all your ducks in a row. Okay, so just make sure that you're showing how competent your business is. How you can make solutions for them, why they should work for you, specific to your customer. Did you research them? Do you know that they are, wanting what you bought, what you sell? Update it when you get new work and use it. Print copies for events, email them to buyers, email them to customers so they know who you are. All right. So, okay, cool. Got a few minutes. If you need to hop off or head out in person, feel free to do that. I'll show you a couple demos and answer any questions that we have. So any questions in person? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'll show you that demo about the small business search. All right, so somebody give me a type of business, any type of business. Roofing? Perfect. Okay, so I could just put roofing here. So this is that small business search. So that is on slide 34 and 35. Small business search. You can Google it. Just look for the one that says SBA. Small business search. You could just Google it. Yep. Or you can go to the slideshow and click the link. So this is directly through the SBA. If you register on SAM, that's how you get a profile on here. So all I did was search roofing. I didn't search anything else. I didn't narrow it down. So in the United States, registered in SAM, there's 4,570 small businesses. Okay, so I'm going to take roofing out and let's do an AICS code. So let's see if it's the same or similar. So what was it? 4,700 something? Oh, okay. So what that means is that that word did not come up in their profile. So like, for example, this home tech, their name doesn't say roofing, and they didn't type roofing in here. So that's why that happened. So another good reason to add keywords to stuff, so when people search, it narrows it down. So if I just put that NAICS code in, I've got 14,000. Let's see how many are in Missouri. So I can click location and I can choose Missouri. 255, okay? So let's type roofing in again. 255 to only 21. So if I'm a contracting officer, that reduces my work, right? What do you do? No, just kidding. Yeah, siding. So like, if you look at this one here, they have their capability statement. I have no idea who this is. This is totally a random search, but let's just go ahead and look at it. Okay, access denied. That's not a good sign, because if I'm a buyer and I click on that, I'm going to be like, okay, your ducks are not in a row. They were almost in a row. You had it on there, but you know, just not a good look. So I might actually want to email her and be like, but that would be creepy. I'm not going to do that. But you can see some people don't put any keywords in. I recommend putting them in. I can show you how to do that super easily on a one-on-one. You just have to be registered in SAM. If you're not registered in SAM and you want to be on this, I can show you how to do that too. If you have a federal certification, you'll see that. But you can see a lot of people on here don't have a capability statement. That's not so good. They didn't. A lot of people don't know that this website exists, actually. Okay, so here's an example. This one's not bad. I think over here on the left, it's a little hard to read because it's thin text on the black outline. I also see a lot of like right? It's a lot of words, right? So if we maybe bolded some of these, like major repairs, you know, general maintenance, like if we bolded some of those words, that would be a little bit better, right? Okay, so differentiators. So what they have here is they have their certifications, but like this second bullet point over here on differentiators, it doesn't tell me which kind of woman-owned small business it is. Are they certified? Or are they just woman-owned? I would put that down with their corporate overview, which they have it up here at the top. So see how they have, like they have their email, they have their cage number. So they have an old number here. This might not be updated. They don't use this DUNS number anymore. They were, yeah. Yeah, they just replaced it. So a DUNS number is an organization called Duns and Bradstreet. We can talk about that later if you want. So it's surprising to me to see that this many people actually added stuff but did not add a capability statement. That's really surprising. None of these people look super familiar to me, but
Small business that are listed out there, some might have business.
so that's definitely a possibility. So the question was, is there a possibility that anybody on this list could be out of business? So the answer is yes, but the ones that we're seeing are currently registered on SAM. So if they let their SAM expire or they don't go back into it and renew, then they wouldn't show up on here. Yeah. So if we change, and I know we're right at like 7:02, so if you have to head out, feel free. We will not be offended. Thank you so much for coming. I would check this out. Regina will send you the slide deck. Let's see. So I think on here I've got a template somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so this one right here, so slide 11, this one that says more info, this is my full guide on how to create a capability statement. It's basically everything that you just looked at, but there's templates on here. So a basic template, a design one, and then also like the Canva resume ones that I found. So that is on slide 11, and it's that more info link. Yeah. And there's also some videos on here and stuff too. Yeah, question. Great question. So your SAM login is good for 1 year and you renew it each year. So once you register, you get all your basic info in there. It doesn't delete that. You don't have to do that every year. You just go in, change anything that needs to be changed, and it renews it for another year. I mean, we could look it up when we stop this recording. If you want, we can look it up. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yep. So Regina will send the slide deck from today. And this little guide that has the templates on it and just lots of information, that's on slide 11.
Expired, it's like an expiration date.
So it shouldn't expire. Regina, do you know anything about the expiration date? I've never heard of that. Maybe download it when you get. Yeah, 100%. So if something, if anything of that I send expires, definitely just email me. Yeah, you should be able to download it.